An excellent qualifying session for the Portuguese Grand Prix, with Lewis Hamilton taking yet another pole position, with emphasis on the take, I think, there, because Valtteri Bottas so quick in Q2, very impressive. It all came down to the final runs in Q3, and Mercedes interestingly gave the drivers the choice of which tyre they wanted to use, the medium or the soft. Normally they would go for the soft, but Mercedes had used the medium on both drivers in Q2. Again, that's fairly normal procedure. Therefore, you've got a tyre that will take them further into the first stint of the race. But to run the medium tyre in Q3, even to have that option, very strange. And that gives, I think, an insight into how difficult it has been managing tyre temperatures and graining at the Portimao circuit. Brand new tarmac there, very difficult to manage it, very slippery, and very difficult to get the tyres up to temperature, very slippery before they are up to temperature, which is why we were talking yesterday so much about Valtteri's car control when it was Drift City Tokyo, I think Carlos Sainz said, but you can call it Portugal as well. Anyway, into Q3, both drivers chose to run the medium tyre, and the question was then whether you do 2 laps on the medium tyre or just one really quick lap. Now, Valtteri had done that in Q2. He'd been quicker than Lewis by doing just the 1 lap on the medium tyre, so he chose that option. Lewis decided to go because he'd never really felt great about the grip and the temperatures of the tyre in Q2. He decided to do 2 laps, which also gave him the slight advantage of being right out on the track as late as possible, just before the checkered flag came down, because obviously he needed to go out earlier if he was going to do the 2 runs. And it was Lewis that got the pole on his second run on the medium tyre. And looking back now, Valtteri would say, well, I should have gone for that option. And if I had, probably I might have got the pole. That's what he'll be thinking. To me, it's kind of odd that decisions like how many laps to do on the medium tyre. I can understand, do you want to run the medium or the soft? I think that's fair enough. But how many laps do you want to do on the medium tyre? That, to me, in the world of engineers controlling everything these days, telling the drivers where to brake, how to brake, when to put the power on, where they're losing time, when to push, when not to push, all those things that we've been talking about yesterday, it's odd that in that world, they're leaving something as engineering orientated as, do you want to do 1 or 2 laps on the medium tyre because tyre temperatures are an issue? It was left to the drivers to make the decision. And so Valtteri, I think, will be feeling, I feel a bit sorry for Valtteri, I think is what I'm getting around to saying, because I think he did the job this weekend, and his car control on the Friday when they were sliding around was just brilliant to watch. So thanks for that, Valtteri. Equally, it's not all lost, of course, because going into the race, both Mercedes will be on the medium tyre, and that will be difficult to manage in the first few laps of the race with all the red tyre, soft tyre cars around them, except for one. Charles Leclerc in Ferrari. I was saying yesterday that Ferrari, in my opinion, were going to be in podium shape on Sunday at Portimao. They were going to be in Red Bull Max Verstappen territory, in other words. And so it proved. There were moments this morning when they were just running the soft tyre and didn't look that quick. And there were moments even in Q1 where they didn't look that good. But ultimately, they did the job superbly. And when I say it was a great qualifying session, what I'm referring to really is Q2 and the decision by Ferrari, talking Ferrari here, not Mercedes, to run the medium tyre on both Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc. Nobody else in the field did that apart from Mercedes. Red Bull, strangely, running Max Verstappen on the soft tyre throughout Q2, even though he'd been really, really quick on the medium and done a lot of laps, 10 good laps on the medium in FP3 on Saturday morning. So you imagine that was preparation for Q2 and running the Red Bull on the medium tyre, but no, they just ran the soft tyre throughout. Ferrari, I suspect, were thinking, well, we're not going to race Mercedes, but we do have a chance of taking the race to Red Bull here this weekend. And they would have thought, wow, Max is on the red tyre, we've chosen to go on the medium. This is good news. Let's just get a lap time out of it. Now, Sebastian Vettel failed to do that. The margin between Sebastian and Charles over the last 4 months has been about half a second. Here, on a shorter lap, it actually grew to 0.6. So Sebastian was never going to get in to Q3. But Charles Leclerc, on his first run in Q2, was 8th quickest, 17.3. Now that put him right on the edge of, would he get through into Q3 on that medium tyre, or would he have to do the second run on the soft tyre? Indeed, as we saw both Mercedes doing in the recent race, the Eiffel race at the Nürburgring. Strangely, Lewis also going to the soft tyre for the second run. Anyway, to me, that was the moment of qualifying. What would Ferrari do with Leclerc's car? Would they play safe and put him on the soft tyre, or would they have the confidence of their own ability to run that car on the medium and take him into the race with the medium tyre? And guess what? They took that second option. They kept Charles on the medium tyre. It was a new set. He didn't go any quicker, but he still finished Q2 in P8, enough to get him through, of course, into Q3. And to me, that was one of the big events of the Formula One year so far, to have a Ferrari on medium tyres against a Red Bull on the soft tyres getting through into Q3, meaning now that he does start with some sort of strategy advantage, assuming, of course, that it doesn't rain on Sunday. And at the moment, there is a forecast for light rain on race day in Portugal. So with that in his pocket, Charles Leclerc could then kind of relax and put on the soft tyres for Q3, though I don't think there was any intention to run the medium in Q3 like Mercedes. They got the soft tyres on the car, but it wasn't all over. He then had to ensure that he was quicker and got a better grid position than Sergio Perez, who'd been really fast in the Racing Point. No surprise there. The Racing Point is a very good racing car. They've had their ups and downs as a team in terms of drivers and all sorts of things going on, particularly with COVID. But Sergio Perez really quick in Portugal, and he was the main threat for Charles Leclerc. So they get to Q3, and on Charles' first run, he does it. He's P4, just ahead of Sergio Perez, almost identical lap time. So they're going in now to the second part of Q3, and what's going to happen is Charles going to hold P4 behind the two Mercedes and Max Verstappen, or is he going to lose position to Racing Point? And he does a 17.0, and Sergio Perez does a 17.3. So that was one of the great moments of qualifying, and here we are. It can be said, this is the first time it's been said all year, that Ferrari are starting on the medium tyre, Red Bull on the softer red tyre, and they're starting P4. That is serious improvement. It may well only be at Portimao that we're seeing that, but we're seeing it anyway. Back to Lewis Hamilton and those variables that came to play during qualifying. The track got slower, the wind got up, partly because the circuit is near the coast, partly because of all the elevation changes. But with all those variables going on, it suddenly became Lewis Hamilton territory yet again. That's what he does so well. Other dramatic moments of qualifying, going again back to Q2. Daniel Ricciardo, quicker than Esteban Ocon at Renault, as has been his wont this year, went off on the last 30 seconds of the second phase of Q2, lightly touching the wall. He was able to continue into Q3. But that inadvertently helped Charles Leclerc a little bit as well, because at P8 he was always vulnerable not to be going through, not to be in the top 10. But that brought the red out, and that brought it to a close, and Leclerc was through. And the other awesome, amazing moment for me in Q2 was George Russell out-qualifying Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari, with Sebastian not really complaining about anything other than all the problems that everybody has, trying to get temperature in the tyres, trying to get the right feel in the car. George knew, I'm sure he knew, there was no way in the world he was ever going to make Q3. He was never going to be top 10, but it just gives an insight into the heart of this guy, of this racing driver with racing in italics, that he went out and did a 17.7, 0.2 quicker than Sebastian. Pierre Gasly was 0.4 quicker than Daniel Kvyat. Kvyat didn't make it through to Q3. Pierre did. Very good drive by Gasly again. And Max Verstappen was eventually half a second quicker than Alex Albon at Red Bull. Max saying that he never ever really felt comfortable with the car either, never really got temperature in. And as for Alex Albon, he was kind of in, well, Sebastian Vettel territory in terms of lack of feel for the car. It was all over the place, and so was he. The other little cameo race within a race was between the two McLaren drivers. The McLaren Renault always looked to be a quick car around Portimao. It was always going to be a top 10 Q3 car in any event. Lando had the edge in Q1, Carlos had the edge in Q2, and in Q3 they both did the same lap time. Carlos just ahead. So some really, really nice nip and tuck going on there between those two. And I think the race will be similarly affected by all these different variables. The wind will be playing its part. And don't forget, off the line, the two Mercedes on the medium and Charles Leclerc on the medium are going to be under a lot of pressure from drivers like Max Verstappen and indeed Sergio Perez on the red, softer tyre. That will change, obviously, as the first stint develops, but it's going to be really difficult to run that medium tyre at the right temperature over the first few laps of the race. Can't wait for that. Can't wait for the Grand Prix itself. See you then.